look at God, He stores up all His anger and pours it out on the cross, not on us, right? See, anger, controlling anger, see, some people, because they could not control their anger, they've ruined their families. The peace and joy in the home has been ruined because out of anger they spoke some terrible words.
Can you hear it? The thunder in the distance when we worship. The Lion of Judah roars. Strongholds crumble all around us in the presence of our Lord. There'll be victory in the camp at the shout of El Shaddai. Every enemy will flee from the fire in his eyes. Every captive will be free in this year of Jubilee. When we hear the shout of El Shaddai, can you hear it? The thunder in the distance when we worship. The Lion of Judah rose. Strongholds crumble all around us in the presence of our Lord. There'll be victory in the camp at the shout of El Shaddai. Every enemy will flee from the fire in his eyes. Every captive will be free in this year of Jubilee. When we hear the shout of El Shaddai, there'll be victory in the camp at the shout of El Shaddai. Every enemy will flee from the fire in his eyes. Every captive will be free in this year of Jubilee. When we hear the shout of El Shaddai.
I've been talking about resurrection power, thinking about resurrection power, just immersed in this, right? Now, when you're immersed in this, you get a sense that with this power, you need to do great and mighty things. But you come here to the Bible, it seems to say you do this. What should you do with resurrection power? You do? I felt a great disappointment, to be honest with you. I'll just tell you, Because, see, usually when I read the Bible, I read with an open mind, right? Let God speak to me, anything, right? And I'm ready to accept. But when it came to this subject, I did not read with an open mind. You know how I read? I read expecting God to tell me that you need to do something great, something bombastic, something that is, flamboyant, something that is grand and big and huge and great, because we are talking about the grandest power there is. With that power, if He has to tell me to do something, it has to be something great. That is the expectation with which I was trying to find out what should I do. And then I go and read in Ephesians, in Colossians, in Philippians, in Thessalonians, in 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, every book in the New Testament, they all say live this kind of life with the resurrection. Totally not what I expected. I expected something like, go heal the sick with resurrection, go raise the dead with resurrection power. Okay? I expect, especially recently people have been talking, they're saying, like, what ministry are you doing? They're looking at our church and saying, what big ministry are you doing? Your pastor's just standing there, preaching the Bible week after week. That is nothing. That is just an ordinary level of ministry. Look at us. We are going out to the street healing the sick. That is the ministry we are doing. And they're saying, look at us. Some people are saying, we are raising the dead. We are doing Lazarus resurrections. We are raising people from the dead. Your ministry is nothing, Our ministry is much. Look at the power in our ministry. So, when you hear things like that, you feel somewhat, discouraged. What ministry are we doing after all? So, when I came to this topic, I began to think, okay, now here's the chance to do something great. God is now going to show me that with resurrection power, you go to the biggest hospital in town, you heal all the sick, make them close down the hospital. Now, that's some impressive show of power. Or you go to the biggest cemetery in town, you raise everybody from the dead. Lazarus was nothing, we'll show some resurrection power. See, I was expecting something like that to come, but it didn't come. I searched and searched, it didn't come. The emphasis on miracles and signs and wonders, see, miracles is there, signs and wonders are there, but these things seem to be far more emphasized in the New Testament. And when it comes to this particular matter of resurrection power, it is particularly emphasizing, saying, with resurrection power, you need to do these things. And I just got very disappointed. I don't know, maybe you also are feeling disappointed. What is this 3 weeks? He just, shouted and preached resurrection power, all this and that. Now finally he's come to this and he's saying, what you have to do with this power is you have to put away sin. You have to overcome your anger. You have to show love. You have to, seems like ordinary things. It's like taking the air out of the balloon, You think something great is coming finally. It's like a movie ending, having a horrible ending. 3 weeks of good resurrection power teaching. Now what are you doing now, Well, I also thought like that only. But the thing is, the word is right and we are wrong always, right? You got to come to that first. First you got to think the word is right and we are wrong. And then you start thinking, well, why does the word say like that? Why does the New Testament, did the apostles not do miracles? Did they not raise the dead? Did they not know the power? They believed in miracles more than most people today, you see. They were doing miracles left and right. Why didn't they say with resurrection power, go do miracles, go raise the dead, go do something grand like that? Why didn't they do that? Think about it. I'm going to make you think about it now. See, when I started thinking only, I got some sense. We think doing a miracle is very great, very hard. I'm going to show you. Let's go to Colossians 3. We're going to use Colossians 3 as our test case, right? Because it's just easier because everything is close by there. Is doing a miracle hard? Is healing the sick hard? Is raising the dead hard? Or is doing the things that Paul says in Colossians 3 hard? Let's look at it. Colossians 3. The problem with us is we think miracle is, that is some great show of power. This is nothing, Well, let's look at it carefully. Colossians 3 verse 5. Therefore, put to death your members which are on the earth. And then what are those things? Fornication, uncleanness, passion, evil, desire. He uses 4 words to describe the same type of sin. Now, I didn't want to talk about this particular sin, okay? But what to do? Paul puts it first on the list and he uses 4 words to talk about the same thing. So I can't skip it, so let's talk about it, right? You take that first word, fornication, right? Basically, let's just take it as sexual sin, okay? Sexual sin. I know it's a tricky subject to talk about, but my question is, what is harder? Abstaining from sexual sin or doing a miracle? Think about it. Don't jump to conclusions. Think about it. What is harder? Is it harder to do miracles and have a great ministry and, show the power of God in your miracles and your ministry? Or is it harder to abstain from this type of sin? There are many preachers who've had great ministries, done great miracles. The power of God has been manifest mightily in their ministries after years and years of ministry. Because of this one problem there, they've lost their entire ministry, lost their effectiveness, lost everything. Do you know stories like that? Forget about that. Just go ask David. Go to David and say, David, what's harder? Defeating Goliath or abstaining from? David defeated Goliath. He defeated every other, and he defeated the lion and the bear, everything else. Armies came against David. He defeated all of them. Believing God for victory for David, that was like, bread and butter. It was so easy. For him, it was nothing big to believe God for victory, to experience victory in war, to experience victory as a king was nothing for David. He experienced victory just left and right. He had victory everywhere. But when it came to this matter, he fell. He had failure. You ask David, I think David will tell you, Goliath wasn't so hard. Friend, maybe you haven't thought about it. Like maybe you're thinking, well, David, are all of us living like David? Of course not. All of us are not living like David. But think about Jesus. When Paul says sexual sin here, he's not just talking about the act of sin. He is even talking about the thoughts. What did Jesus say about adultery? You remember that? If a man looks at a woman with a lustful eye, he has already committed adultery in his. That is what Paul is talking about. Now you tell me, is abstaining from the lustful look harder or doing a miracle harder? See, some people have taken that lustful look, and they've said, well, if you look once, it's no problem. The second time only, it means you may be committing a sin. Third time surely means you are committing a sin. Then beyond that, you've just gone into a different category, No, Jesus doesn't say that. Matthew 5:28, he says, if you look, that means one time itself, if you look with lust. That's what it means. One time itself, if you look with, you have already committed. Now, let me tell you, which is harder? I tell you, my friend, doing a miracle is easier. Because these things, these images that provoke lust are everywhere. Are on TV, newspaper, everywhere you turn, world is trying to pull you into that. It's harder to overcome that temptation than to do a miracle. You may not be convinced, Some people are thinking, well, at least you cannot tell me doing a miracle is hard, but this is very easy. If you are saying this is very easy, you have not understood the seriousness of it. Some people, when they see commands like this in the New Testament, what they do is, some people take this approach. This is very easy. I've been doing this all my life. This is nothing for me, There's one group of those people. They say it's easy, nothing. They are wrong, you see. There's another group which says, this is very hard. How can anybody live like this? How can anybody not even look one time lustfully, So they look at it as very hard, and therefore they say, this and all cannot be followed. This is some ideal. You cannot do this. You cannot live like this. Therefore, what Jesus was trying to say is, well, listen, man, aim for the stars and you'll shoot at the bark. Try to live like this and you'll at least get somewhere close to it. Yeah, it's okay. Sometimes the lust will come and you will look with lust, but it's okay. At least this is a impossible ideal. They think it's like that, you see. It's neither. It's not easy. No, it is hard, my friend. It's not easy. Don't kid yourself trying to tell yourself this is easy. It is hard. But at the same time, it's not that it's so hard that you can't do it. No, it is hard, but you can do it. That is why you've been given resurrection power. Amen. Like I said, I wouldn't have gone to this subject if Paul didn't mention it first, right? What do you want me to do? You need resurrection power to live this type of a life. To live to live in a way that in front of Jesus itself you are not committing adultery. In Jesus' eyes, to live as pure, you need what? Resurrection power. You need it, my friend. The world, they cannot live like this. I tell you, they cannot live like this. The Sermon on the Mount is not meant to be followed by unbelievers. It's meant for believers. These commands are meant for believers with resurrection power who have been raised up in their spirits. For this you need resurrection, not just for miracle, you need for this also. That's what I'm trying to say. See, how do you show resurrection power here? Usually the way you show resurrection power is you confess and you believe, right? But this is a little special case, right? You can't be, when this temptation comes, you can't be standing there and confessing, I got resurrection power, and so, no. When this comes, the confession all should be done previously, prior. Right? Before itself, you should have confessed enough. I got resurrection power. When this temptation comes, I can defeat it. But when the temptation comes, the first thing you do is run. What do? You flee. Paul said 1 Timothy 2:22, flee youthful lust. Literally run away. That's what flee means. Turn and run. Like Joseph. You remember Joseph. Turned, left everything he had and just ran out. But to run you need resurrection power. Are you listening? When the something, the wrong is coming on the TV which is provoking you to change the channel, you need resurrection. You need it. Because your lust wants to say stay, but the power in you, use that to say no. Change. See? What I'm saying is for this you need resurrection power. See, maybe you're not convinced, go to the next example. Colossians 3:8. See? What is more difficult, doing a miracle or this? Colossians 3:8. But now you yourselves are to put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your... Now basically it's talking about anger and the things associated with anger. Starts with anger and keeps getting worse. Wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language. Anger has come out of the mouth now, finally. Now what is easier? Is it easier not to get angry? Or let's say, what is more difficult? Is it more difficult to do a miracle or more difficult to control your anger? What's more difficult, my friend? More difficult to raise the dead or more difficult to control your anger? You're driving down the street, Chennai, you're driving properly, following all the rules. Problem is here, if you follow the rules, that's when you get into more trouble, If you break the rules, at least you can drive peacefully. But you're driving, following all the rules properly, and the guy behind you is honking, and there's no place. You can't move anywhere. He's getting upset, he's honking, but finally he gets some place and he overtakes you with, looks at you with an angry face, and you're thinking, okay, maybe, it's okay, And then you both go and you both are standing next to each other at the signal, traffic light. Now, even then, you're trying to be very magnanimous and you're trying to think maybe he's in a hurry, maybe he's had some bad day, And so you're just keeping quiet. You never did anything wrong, he only. But that fellow lowers the window and starts cursing you out. Just shaming you in front of everybody at the signal. Is it harder to control your anger there or harder to do a miracle? I tell you, it's easier to preach here than to control anger over there. I don't know, you can ask other preachers, see what they think. That's what I think. What is more difficult? See, we think only in the miracle great power is, no, this you need more power. You need different kind of. Some people, have you seen, they'll say, have you heard about some people, they'll say, oh, that man is a very good man. He's very good at heart. But when he gets angry, but just ignore his words because that was just spoken in anger. But he's very good at... See, it's okay to get angry. Even God gets angry. Even Jesus got angry. You remember in the temple, he got angry. He took a whip, But but God and Jesus, they get angry with the right people. They get angry to the right level. They get angry at the right time. They show the anger in the right way. Controlled aggression. Right? You look at God, he stores up all his anger and pours it out on the cross. Not on us. Right? See, anger, controlling anger, some people, because they could not control their anger, they've ruined their families. The peace and joy in the home has been ruined because out of anger they spoke some terrible words. And they tell me that wives are not very easily don't forget. Is that true? Right? That's what they tell me. Wives have a tendency to remember more. Right? They don't forget so. Sometimes the husband, just lashes out and speaks some things in anger. But, like one person said, whenever I have an argument with my wife, she gets historical. The other guy said, what historical? You mean hysterical? No, he said, no, historical. She goes to the past history and brings up, everything. You see, what I'm trying to say is, uncontrolled anger can ruin families, can ruin companies, can ruin great things. Alexander the Great, what a great guy he was. I mean, that's why he has the name Alexander the Great. He lived before the time of Jesus, and he extended the Greek Empire, right? So Greece became a large empire because Alexander the Great went to new lands and conquered them, right? And in fact, he's the one who spread through that conquering only the Greek culture and the Greek language spread so much that when Jesus came on the scene, it had spread so much that it was like English today. Everybody knew Greek. That is why, because of Alexander's great influence only, the New Testament was written in the Greek language. That was the kind of great man Alexander the Great was, right? There's a true story about him. They say that once, after a victory, he was celebrating with his soldiers, and sometimes, there is alcohol involved. So the soldiers, one soldier, his best friend was just near him. They were all celebrating, drinking. That guy drank too much, his best friend, And in a drunken state, he began making fun of Alexander and said some bad things, right? In a drunken state. He insulted him in front of the whole army like that. And Alexander got so angry, he took a spear near him, just threw it at him, and it seems his aim was so good that he doesn't miss. It went right into his heart and it killed him. And they say that after that, Alexander became very sad because he realized the guy did not say it in his right mind. He was drunk. That's why he said that but that guy was his best friend. He felt so bad that he killed his best friend. They say that after that, Alexander tried to kill himself. He felt so bad. He could not get over that incident, you see. And, it took a long time for him to get over that. What I'm trying to say is Alexander the Great conquered great lands, did some great things, couldn't control his, lost the battle. Not enough to do super at your work. You need to be able to control not enough for me to preach here, I need to be able to control my anger, you see. That is important to God, I don't know why, but it seems to be important to God. In Colossians, he talks about anger. In Ephesians, he talks about anger. Go read in chapter 4 in your own time. It is important to God that you control your anger. But to control this anger is not an ordinary thing. You need what? Resurrection. You want to know where to show your resurrection power? Show it at your anger. Say, I got resurrection power. Keep it down, Controlled aggression. Show it to the right person at the right place in the right way to the right level. Even in the world, they got anger management techniques. They say when you feel angry, just bite your teeth. Or take a pillow and, punch it or something, Or think about a happy place, they say, They're saying these things. And with those techniques, they are able to control their anger so much. I tell you, with resurrection power, are we not able to control our anger? Do you think we can't control it? We can. What is more difficult? I'm talking about what is more difficult. What requires resurrection power more? Look at verse 12. The Christian life is not just about abstaining from, sexual sin or abstaining from anger, uncontrolled anger. No, it's more than that. It is not just leaving out certain things, abstaining. It is also doing some very good things. That's what Paul says in verse 12. As the elect of God, 3:12, Colossians 3:12. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long suffering, bearing with one another, and forgiving. Notice the word, forgiving one another. If anyone has a complaint against another, even as Christ forgave you, so you also must do. Forgiving. What is more difficult? Doing a miracle or forgiving? What is more difficult? Some people say, they say, I've forgiven you, but they'll rake up all they'll get historical on you, like we said, If you ask them and say, but you forgave me, right? They'll say, yes, I forgave you, but I didn't forget it. Forgive is different. Forget is. What a nice argument. So we can forgive but not forget. Is that what Paul is saying? Look there. He says in verse 13, forgiving one another, even as Christ forgave you, you also must do. How did Christ forgive? Did he say, well, I forgive you, I put your sins into the depths of the sea, but when I need it, I will rake it up back and just bring it up and show it? Is that what Christ is doing? No, my friend. If it's forgiven by Christ, then it's forgotten by, that's it.
Our God is good, our God is great, our God is true. And there is nothing in this world He cannot do. His mighty hands were made available to you. Oh, praise His name, He's on the other side of faith. Our God is good, our God is great, our God is true. And there is nothing in this world He cannot do. His mighty hands were made available to you. Oh, praise His name, He's on the other side of faith. Keep pressing on. Keep pressing on. God's on the other side of faith. And though the clouds may for a moment fade, remember God is on the other side of faith. Keep pressing on. Keep pressing on. God's on the other side of faith. And though the clouds may for a moment hide His face, remember God is on the other side of faith. Threatening clouds may hide your vision for a while, and you may wonder if He hears you when you pray. But don't forget that God is love and you're His child. Press on in faith because the answer's on the way. Keep pressing on.